Sometimes, it's not the big things that change our lives, but the smallest, furriest, most unexpected souls that walk in when we least expect it. He thought he was just rescuing a lost puppy. But what that little heartbeat on 4 paws gave him back, was hope, love, and a reason to start living again. The rain had just stopped when Ethan was walking back from work that evening, his head low, his heart heavier than the soaked streets around him. Life hadn't been kind lately. He had just lost his job at the architecture firm he had given 5 years of his life to, and his girlfriend of 2 years had walked out only weeks before. The world seemed dull, gray, and meaningless, and he was moving through it like a ghost in his own body. That's when he heard it, a faint, desperate whimper near the alley. At first, he thought he was imagining it, but then it came again, louder this time, sharp enough to break through the storm clouds sitting over his heart. Ethan stopped, turned toward the sound, and walked slowly down the narrow alley, his shoes splashing in puddles. There, tucked under a broken crate, was a tiny puppy, so small it looked like it had been dropped by the world itself. Shivering, dirty, and barely able to open its eyes, the pup let out another cry that went straight to Ethan's chest. He crouched down, hesitating. He wasn't sure if he had the energy, the patience, or even the ability to take care of another living soul right now. He could barely take care of himself. But when he reached out his hand, the tiny creature pressed its wet nose against his palm, as if saying, "Please don't leave me here." Ethan felt something stir inside him, something he thought he had lost: responsibility, compassion, maybe even love. He scooped the fragile body up carefully, holding it close against his jacket, and whispered, "All right, little one. You're coming home with me." It was the first time in months he had spoken with warmth. And though he didn't know it yet, that night wasn't just about saving a puppy. It was the start of saving himself. Ethan's small apartment was no palace. It was messy, dim, and scattered with the evidence of his recent heartbreak and unemployment. But as he placed the puppy on a soft towel near the heater, the space felt different, like something alive had walked in to claim it. The pup wagged its tiny tail weakly, and Ethan couldn't help but smile for the first time in weeks. He rummaged through his fridge, found some milk, warmed it slightly, and fed the pup with a spoon. The little creature licked eagerly, its pink tongue darting, and Ethan chuckled quietly. It was a sound he hadn't heard from himself in months. That night, as the rain continued outside, Ethan sat on the couch with the puppy curled up on his chest. He stroked its fur gently, feeling the rise and fall of its breathing. The world outside was still cold, still harsh, but inside, there was warmth, there was life, there was connection. He decided to name the puppy Chance. Because maybe, just maybe, this was his second chance too. In the following days, Ethan's routines began to shift. He would wake up early to walk Chance, feed him, and clean up after him. It was exhausting at times, but it gave Ethan something he hadn't had in months: a reason to get up in the morning. Neighbors began to notice too, greeting him on the street with smiles, drawn to the adorable ball of fur trotting beside him. Conversations began, laughter returned, and the loneliness that had consumed Ethan began to melt away. Chance wasn't just a puppy. He was a bridge, connecting Ethan back to the world, to people, to joy. Weeks turned into months, and as Chance grew stronger, so did Ethan. Taking care of the puppy had rekindled a discipline in him, one that had gone missing under the weight of disappointment. Early morning walks turned into jogging sessions, and soon Ethan found himself healthier, more energized, and surprisingly optimistic. He even picked up his sketchbook again, something he had abandoned after losing his job. Sitting in the park while Chance played with children, Ethan began to draw: buildings, bridges, homes filled with life. His art carried a new depth, a new warmth, one that came from this newfound companionship. One day, a woman sitting nearby noticed his sketches. She introduced herself as Clara, an editor for a lifestyle magazine, and was fascinated by the emotion in his work. "These aren't just buildings," she said. "They tell stories." Encouraged by her words, Ethan agreed to share some of his designs, and before long, Clara published a feature on The Architect Who Found Inspiration in a Puppy. The story resonated with readers, and soon, offers began to come in, freelance projects, collaborations, even invitations to exhibitions. Ethan's career, once shattered, was slowly being rebuilt, brick by brick, sketch by sketch. And at the center of it all was Chance, wagging his tail proudly, always by his side. Ethan realized then that sometimes blessings come wrapped in the most unexpected forms. He had found a lost puppy, but what he had really found was purpose, friendship, and love. Years later, Ethan stood in his new studio, sunlight pouring through wide windows, walls filled with his artwork and architectural models. He was no longer the broken man wandering in the rain. He was thriving, his designs had won awards, his work was celebrated, and his life was filled with meaning. But none of it mattered as much as the soft sound of paws clicking against the wooden floor. Chance, now grown but still full of puppy-like energy, bounded toward him, his eyes sparkling with loyalty. Ethan knelt down, hugging his best friend tightly. "We did it, buddy," he whispered, his voice catching. It wasn't just about career success or recognition, it was about healing, about rediscovering himself, about remembering that even in the darkest nights, light can find you if you're willing to open your heart. Looking back, he realized something profound. He thought he had saved Chance that rainy night. But the truth was, Chance had saved him. And as they stepped outside together, man and dog, partners in life, Ethan knew one thing for certain: sometimes, the tiniest life can make the biggest difference. If this story touched your heart, remember, sometimes saving one small life can change your own forever. Share this story to spread kindness, and don't forget to subscribe to Kindness Vibes for more true, life-changing stories. Together, let's make the world a little warmer, one act of love at a time.